it's very important to take into consideration that the developments in the region highlighted a very important discourse that was ongoing even before the uprisings about the development paradigm that you have to adopt and the priorities. Let's say that most of the Arab countries, they adopted certain policies according to the guidance and let's say the directions of the Euro Mediterranean partnership process and the bilateral agreements, but also according to the guidance of the international institutions such as the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. And these, let's say, policies were mainly based on the economic choices leading to the integration in the global economy, promoting foreign investment in order to increase growth, where, let's say, there is a need to alleviate or to reduce the national regulations, the role of the state, and to enhance and to empower, let's say, the private sector and the liberal economy and the free market economy in general. After decades of these tendencies and choices, the results were not very positive. I mean, we couldn't reach development, and we are still facing some social and economic challenges such as poverty, unemployment, social marginalization, and so on. So now, after the uprisings, it's very important to identify what are the real reasons and the challenges behind these gaps, political gaps, whether it is relying under the lack of democracy, transparency, and the ability to hold political leadership accountable and responsible, or it was under the model, the economic model that we used to follow. From our perspective as Arab NGO Network for Development, we believe that definitely the lack of democracy and transparency promoted corruption and hijacked all the efforts. But there is something very important lying under the challenges, which is related to the model. And we feel that we have to rethink the growth-led models that we've been following during the last decades, and to focus more on the promotion of the national economy, to rethink I mean the macroeconomic choices, and to focus more on the national productive sectors, and to promote production, where we have to rethink the nature and the quality of growth that we've been producing. This is first. And second, the redistribution of wealth, so the whole society can, or the majority among the society can benefit from the outcome of this growth. In the European policy, and mainly which is formulated in the first reaction, in the declaration of in the joint communication, let's say, of the Commission and the Council and the European Parliament, which is known under the title of the More for More declaration. It's very clear that in this declaration there is two parts or two sections. The first section, which is addressing the reaction to the political processes, where as civil society we support and we positively evaluate the position reflected in the communication, because it's openly calling for, let's say, enhancing democracy, calling for democratic and free elections, calling for, let's say, the right to association, political parties, political movements, the judiciary, reform of the judiciary system, and so on. The second section is has a lot of ambiguities, and here is the main, let's say, problem and challenge that we are facing, and we are engaging even with the European in general institutions in this kind of debate about the priorities, where they are again calling for kind of adopting economic policies to promote foreign direct investments and to create the enabling environment for these investments in order to again increase growth, which means that we are stuck in the same theory, in the same policy, and in the same objectives, while we are trying to invite the European Union and the European institutions and the decision makers at this level to take into consideration the need to rethink the paradigm that we've been following first, and second, and since we've been implementing the bilateral free trade agreements since Barcelona process, at least 10 years ago, and the impact was not very positive. So there is a need to go through an in-depth assessment of these agreements and the processes and the former policies that we've been implementing within the framework of the neighborhood policy, and at least to lead kind of an impact assessment of these policies. And based on the result, we can go further negotiating the bilateral or the multilateral relations between the Arab countries or the Mediterranean countries and the European Union, which is a very important, point, because, without this assessment, we cannot really identify where the challenges, the gaps, and how to go really in order to confront and to let's say for more choices in order to deal with the challenges as poverty, employment, and so on. It's very important here to take into consideration that the responsibilities are shared. When we are talking about the neighborhood policy, we are talking about the two parts or two partners. We are talking about the Arab countries or the countries in the southern Mediterranean and the European countries. So if we are asking the European Union to rethink the basis, mainly the economic basis of the neighborhood policy and the partnership, we at the same time are inviting our governments as well to rethink the national priorities and to launch kind of a democratic national process of consultation in order to decide and to identify what are the priorities. So in our, let's say, strategies, we have a combined strategy in two directions. We have the national strategy where we have to focus more on the empowerment of civil society, empowering civil society in order to enable the social actors to engage in a debate and a discussion and in a national dialogue with the governments in order to identify what are the priorities. And the second direction is directed to the partner, to the European Union mainly. So in this regard, it's very important to, let's say, see that the partnership between civil society in the north and in the south should serve this combined strategy, how we can contribute in empowering the national civil society by building real partnerships and by, let's say, agree on a common definition of a partnership. What do we mean by partnership? I mean equal partnership, mutual responsibility, mutual respect, and so on, where the main investment should be in the empowerment of civil society. This is one part of it. And the second part of it, where we are talking about a lobby or advocacy on the European institutions, where it is related to definitely the European institutions of the EU, but also it is related to the member states, because the member states, they have a say in defining and identifying the European policies. So that's why this membership, this partnership between the southern organizations and the northern organizations in order to, let's say, support these tendencies in order to enhance advocacy at the national level in Europe, at the level of the member states, but also enabling the southern civil society to outreach the decision makers and to engage in a debate with the decision makers in order to be able, let's say, first to introduce this vision and these perspective, but also in order to be able to advocate and to lobby all together for the sake of, let's say, these tendencies and these priorities and these choices.